we're going to make a smiley face like this one. Click on Create New Design from your home page. The very first thing we want to do is change the name of our file, and we want our file name to be descriptive with our name in it. So this is a smiley face, but I bet there's a ton of designs called smiley face. So I'm going to call it Smile Big Leslie. I'm putting my name in there and trying to make the name a little bit unique. And my name in there lets people who are printing know that this is my print. So I'm going to hit enter. Okay, so now I want to drag over a cylinder from the left-hand side under basic shapes. So I'm going to drag the cylinder out. And I'm going to make it 43 by 43 millimeters. And you notice we are working in millimeters. You can see where it says snap grid on the bottom right that we are working in millimeters. So I'm going to click on one of the corner white boxes. Notice that there's 4 corner white boxes, and then there's a white box up at the top underneath a cone. That's how all our shapes will look. So I can click on any of these 4 corner white boxes, and if I click, it makes these numbers stay for a few minutes, or for a half a minute. Then you can come over and click on either one of the numbers and type in what you want. So we want 43 millimeters. Now we could drag, but that's hard to be very exact with, and we're going to be really exact. So we're going to type and hit enter. Now for the height or depth, it's going to be 7 millimeters. So I'm going to click on this little white square underneath the cone. If you drag to the side perspective, you can tell that that has to do with the height. So I'm going to click and then come over here and click on 20 millimeters and change it to only 7 millimeters. So it's going to be just a little over a half of a centimeter. Okay, so now I have the base of my smiley face. The next thing I need are 2 eyes and a smile. So let's start with the eyes. They're pretty easy. Just like this, they're going to be cylinders. So I'm going to drag another cylinder over. This time I want it to be 11.32 by 11.32. So I click on one of the white corners and then click where I want to type and type 1132. Again, 11 and 32 hundredths millimeters and hit enter. Okay, so now we have this in a perfect circle as a cylinder, and we want to change the depth. So the depth is going to be right here where you see the 20. It's this white box. Click there, come over here. We could actually leave it 20. It doesn't really matter, but we're going to make it 10 because what we're going to do is we're going to use this cylinder, hit enter, to create a hole that will cut through our smiley face to create an eye. So we're going to need 2 eyes. Before I copy this, I'm going to turn it into a hole. So when you click on it, you notice this little shape window pop up. There's an arrow there that allows you to collapse or show everything that's under that window. So anyway, right now, if I'm looking within shape, I see hole, and you can do this with any of your shapes. You can click on hole or solid. Right now, it's a solid. I want it to be a hole. So now that I have this made into something to cut eyes into my smiley face, I'm going to make a copy. So the keystroke is Control C. That means you hold down Control with one finger, CTR on L on your keyboard, and then you press C while you're holding down Control or CTRL. They call that Control C. So you let go of the C first, then you let go of the Control. That's Control C. And that gives you copy. And what that does is put whatever it is you copied in whatever program you're using on this invisible clipboard. And it stays there so that you can hit paste. And a lot of times you can hit paste over and over. So paste is Control. You hold your Control down and press V. Let go of the V and then let go of the Control. So I can press Control V. I could actually do that over and over if I wanted to, but I don't really want to. I only need 2 copies. I just wanted to show you. Okay, so now I'm going to twist this around a little bit to show me more of a top perspective, but slightly from an angle of my smiley face. And I'm just going to drag these eyes to approximately where I think they should be. to make my eyes. Now, these are holes that are going to cut through my smiley face. And what you can do is you can have these holes go halfway into the smiley face so that it's not really a hole, but it's kind of carved out, or you can make it go all the way through the smiley face. So I'm going to show you how to make it go all the way through. So if you kind of twist this screen to the side, you can see that the holes are taller than your figure, which is good. And if you keep going, they're not longer on the bottom, which is an issue if we want the holes to go all the way through. So we're going to need to just move those up and down, or down actually. And to move any figure up and down, you click on that figure, and once you do, you will see that little cone that we saw earlier. May have to go to a different perspective. So I'm just going to click, it's a left click. This cone allows you to take an object and move it up or down without changing its shape at all. So I'm going to click and just drag a little teeny tiny bit. I still want it to go above my smiley face, but I also want it to come out beneath my smiley face too. And you can kind of see it there. You can also zoom in if you need to. So you can see it protruding through the bottom, which is perfect. Okay, and it just needs to be big enough to get all the way through. So I'm going to come back over here and click on Fit All in View. It'll get me back to where I was, but I want to go home too, so I'm looking at the top. I'm going to do the same thing with this other eye. So click on the eye, grab that little cone, and you don't have to go far, just a little bit. As a matter of fact, you can see your -1 above, which is really 1. -1 above means that it's past the figure 1. And the -1 below. So it's beneath the work plane 1 as well, which is perfect. That means it's protruding. So I'm going to click off my figure. I'm just going to twist it. I always want to make sure everything is doing what I expect it to be doing, because a lot of times we forget to do things. All right, or things just don't do what we think they're doing. So now, in order to turn these into actual holes, I'm going to have to drag over all these figures and group them together. And then the holes cut out the space. So before I do that, I'm going to look at the smiley face from the very top here. And I could come over here and click on top if I want to have a perfect top view. And I want to see if I'm happy with how centered they are before I group. I'm pretty happy. You may have to change yours a little bit. So I'm going to drag around all 3 figures, the 2 tiny holes and the big face. And then I'm going to come up here to the toolbar. There's a tool that is available that was not there before I highlighted all of these figures. This tool is called the grouping tool, and you can tell because if you hover over that button on the toolbar, you'll see the word group. I'm going to click on group, and ta-da, now my holes are cut out. Awesome. Now I just need to cut out a smile. So what we're going to do to find a smile, there's several ways to do this, but I kind of cheated and found a little figure that I liked under shape generators where it says all. So if you click on all, there's a ton of different shapes you'll find in here if you want to play around at some other time. But for right now, we're going to stay really focused and learn how to create some figures. I'm going to show you where to go. So we went to shape generators and all, and we're going to use the donut slice. We're going to drag this donut slice out, and that's going to become the mouth. I'm going to go ahead and tell you the length and width I used. You can always tweak these measurements yourself, but I know that these work, so that's why I'm telling you. All right, so let's click on any of the 4 squares that are around our figure, not the one in the center, that's the height. So I'm going to click on a corner square. I want my length down here to be 28.75 millimeters. I'm going to type in 28.75 and hit enter. Then I want my width, which is this measure. Whoops, it went away. So I have to click again. Now I'm going to click a second time. So for my width, I want it to be 12.53 centimeters, or 12 53/100 centimeters, or 1.2583 centimeters. Okay, so I have this, the general shape I want. I want to change my depth a little bit. So I'm going to, or height, I'm going to click right here. and change this to 10 and see if you can figure out why I made it so tall. Okay, so guess what we're going to do with this? If you guessed turn it into a hole, you're correct. So I'm going to click on the solid, and then where it says donut slice, I'm going to click on hole. And I'm going to cut this smile out. So just drag your smile and put it wherever you want it. Now we may have to twist that smile a little bit, and that is called using the rotation tool. So I will show you what using the rotation tool looks like and how it works. So as I click on the smile, for me, I feel like it needs to twist up a little bit. So I'm going to grab this right here and just twist down a tiny bit, which is really hard to control, as you can see. Sometimes I'll twist it like that and just think, well, I really want it between 0 and 22.5, but closer to 0. So I'll just click in here and put something like 8 degrees. This is degrees. Whoop, that was too much. I overcorrected. So I'm going to take this back to maybe 5 degrees. And I just play around. Maybe I just wanted a tiny correction. 2 degrees. Ah, beautiful. So I play around with what degrees I want. Now, when it comes to rotating any figure, I'll use the cylinder as an example. When you highlight that figure, you'll notice that there are these curved arrows. There's one there, one here, and one down here. And sometimes you have to twist around in your perspective to be able to see the one that you want to work with. And if you're like me, sometimes I need to actually twist these to see what's going to happen. But the circle around does definitely help you see how it's going to twist. So these are your rotation tools, and all you have to do is select an object and then twist around in your perspective until you see the one you want, and then you can just drag from side to side to twist your figure. For example, there we go. I can twist that one up and back down. And it's hard to get it exactly right sometimes, especially with dragging. So let's say I want to stand this figure up. I would click right there and type in 90 for 90 degrees, and that would stand it right up. And if you think of a right angle, this right here became your right angle. I don't know if you saw that. So I'm going to do Control Z. So if you hold, you don't need to do all this. I'm just showing you. But Control Z on your keyboard is undo, holding down Control and then hitting Z. So if you ever mess up or want to change something you just did, just press Control Z. That's why I didn't worry about showing you all that example. The next thing I'm going to do is take that smile, and I need to make it go all the way through the figure. So first thing I want to do is make sure that when I select, what I select is the smile and not the cylinder. So I have the smile selected right now. I'm going to use the cone to move up and down without changing the shape. So I'm just going to take it down a little bit. So it's a little above and a little below the smiley face. I'm going to look underneath and just make sure it went below, which I can see. And the real test is when you highlight everything and you press group, if it cuts all the way through and you can see the work plane, then you know you did it right. So our smiley face is complete. Some options are to do something like put a bow tie underneath or a little bow on the top or whatever you might find interesting to add to your smiley face, or you can leave it as is. If you do add anything to the smiley face, make sure that it's touching the smiley face, like it goes into the smiley face a little bit. Otherwise, what happens is you'll end up having a smiley face and say you put a bow, the bow will print separately, and that would not be what you want. So just make sure, for example, if I wanted this to be part of my picture, I would need to make sure it was overlapping a little bit with the face so that it would print together. And that's the end of this video.